started. Okay, so I really need engagement tonight. I know that now there's 20 people on here. That makes me a little bit more, happy, but I need to see some engagement. And I want you to think about where you want to be in your Scentsy business in 5 years. Now, if you are not somebody that really wants to run this as a business, I mean, that's different. But if I want you to dig deep, I want you to think really hard. I want you to tell me what you have, what do you envision 5 years from now for your business? Talk to me in the chat if you would. It doesn't have to be income. It doesn't have to be anything. It's your dream. It's your vision. But I want to know where your vision is. Because I can't help you reach my vision, because my vision for you may be completely different, and that's not mine to own. That's yours to own. Okay, I love this. So full-time stay-at-home mom, full-time consultant, a director, Scentsy full-time, $5,000 to $6,000 checks, not stressing over bills, full-time, car paid off, out of debt. Yes. Okay. And so if your goals aren't that, that's okay. They don't have to be. But if you didn't type in the comments, or I mean, a lot of people are typing now, raise your hand if you have your video on. If you envisioned a title, director, star director, SSD, right? I would be in the exact same place, because my goal had been to be an SSD. Now, I want you to think about this though. I can't lie. It was so cool for me to promote to director. It was so cool for me to promote to star director. It was beyond amazing to promote to SSD. But in 5 years, when you're looking back at your life and at your business, is it that title that's actually going to matter? Is it that title that is going to make you go to bed at night feeling fulfilled? Is it like, what is going to leave you fulfilled and know that you're doing what God's calling is for you? And this is something that was just kind of laid on my heart today, is that the title is not what you're going to look back on and remember. This is bigger than that. This is bigger than money. This is bigger than the title. This is bigger than the group numbers. Those milestones are amazing, and they're good, and they're important, and they're amazing. But Joe Blow walking down the street doesn't know what a superstar director is. Your mama, probably my mama, don't have a clue what a superstar director is. I mean, people that aren't in Scentsy don't know what those titles mean. Just like you may see a friend that's in another direct sales and you know she's killing it and she's near the top of her company, but you don't know if she's at the very top or like climbing her way, right? Because it's not, that's a name for us. It's not a name for the world. Because at the end of the day, yes, I'm a superstar director. Yes, I'm a Scentsy consultant, but I'm a mom and I'm a child of God. And I have a legacy that I want to build for my family. And so I just wanted to use tonight as a way for us to reflect on that, because so many of us, myself included, you guys know I've been very transparent about being upset the fall that I didn't promote, but I didn't deserve it because I wasn't doing the work. But it's really been put on my heart to have all of us self-reflect in that manner, because I think that especially in the fall, we get really caught up in chasing the next title and chasing the next big paycheck or chasing the next anything. But in 5 years, that's not what's going to matter. And that's not what matters to anybody else outside of Cincy. And so, yes, bloom where you are planted. And so we're going to take a little quiz. And I cannot take responsibility for this, or I cannot take ownership of this, but we're just going to take a quiz. Okay. It's not anything that you have to write down, and you don't have to share your score. If you want to share your scores as we go in the chat box, feel free. If you want to write them down to keep up with them, feel free. I'm not going to ask for you to post what your final score is. This is very, very much a self-reflection quiz. Your girl took it and your girl ain't happy with her score, but that's what leaders do. Leaders always self-reflect, and leaders are never okay with being stagnant. But I don't want to be better than any of you. I want to be better than I was yesterday. And I can't do that if I'm not reflecting, okay? So this is over the last 5 days. So all of these questions that I'm about to ask you are going to be based on over the last 5 days, okay? And each of these questions, you're gonna give yourself 10 points for each thing. And I'm gonna explain it as we go, okay? Once again, if you want to share in the chat box, you can. I'm not going to ask you to share your score. You only do that if you want to do it. But remember to be honest, because this isn't between me and you or you and your director. This is between you and your heart and you and Jesus. And I just want you to take this. I think this is going to be really valuable. Okay, so in the last 5 days, I want you to give yourself 10 points for each encouraging text message that you sent to anyone. That doesn't mean just in Cincy. That just means in your life in general, give yourself 10 points for every encouraging text that you sent to anyone. You had to initiate it, not you responding back to somebody. Okay, I'm going to give you guys a second. Okay. And like I said, this is just like a roundabout rough estimate. It doesn't have to be like crazy. I just want you to self-reflect, okay? I want you to give yourself 10 points for every Facebook message or text that you sent to someone in Cincy that you don't make money on. I'm going to say it again. 10 points for every Facebook message or text that you sent to someone in Cincy that you don't make money on. This means like telling someone you look up to them. That doesn't necessarily mean like asking your leader a question. I just mean someone that you don't make money on. Who have you reached out to and talked to in the last 5 days? Okay. I want you to give yourself 10 points for every customer thank you. That can be sending a text message. That can be doing your thank you mail. But it doesn't count if you just did like a thank you Facebook post to everybody individually, either mail, text, however you communicate. Okay. All right. I want you to give yourself 10 points. Remember, this is only over the last 5 days. I want you to give yourself 10 points for each post in your upline or leaders page over the last 5 days. Liking a post doesn't count. So 10 points for each post in your uplines team page or leadership page. Leadership page would be Leaders in Light. Your uplines team page would be, it's a little different for directors just because directors usually host their own team page, but I mean like Leaders in Light, that page, our page is only as good as we make it. Okay. Only 2 more, I promise. Give yourself 10 points for every time that you have cheered on another Scentsy consultant in the last 5 days. That means on your team page or like in regular Facebook, like if you saw someone earned an incentive and you congratulated them. Cheering on also can mean like a welcome when a new team member joins and you welcome them, or someone earned shooting star. Liking does not count. All right, and the last one, 10 points for every condolence comment that you have made. This one's kind of strange, but I mean, like, how many times do you scroll past something on Facebook or Instagram and somebody has had like their family's sick or they had a death in their family and you keep scrolling, but you don't say anything? So a condolence post, how many times have you done that in the past 5 days? Maybe you haven't seen any, but if you have, just ask yourself that. And then I just want you to like total up your points. And like I said, you don't have to share them. And if you guys want me to, I can type out these questions so that you can like self-evaluate yourself again later. Okay? So raise your hand or type in the chat box if you're not super proud of your score. I'm not. And it was like a kick in the gut, but it was also like, hello, right? Okay. So that's okay. If you scored poorly or you are not proud of your scores, it's okay. No one can get onto you for what you didn't know when you couldn't know it. No one can get onto you for something that you didn't know when you couldn't know it. But now we know it. Now we've self-reflected. Now we've asked ourselves about these things. And I got these questions from an amazing superstar director named Laura Godwin. She was the shining star at the very first reunion that I ever went to. And if you've ever met her, you know, she's not like a super like extroverted person, but if you ever talk to her, you know, you can see how genuine she is and you can see Jesus through her and you can see like how much she deserved that award because she was truly exhibiting all of the things a shining star should be exhibiting. And that's where this quiz came from. And I think that every single one of these questions, I believe, leads to being a good human, being a good consultant, and being a good leader. And I don't know about you guys, but I get very overwhelmed with social media because I'm in a lot of different groups, and I open up my phone and I have 5 million notifications all the time. Even if I just checked it 5 minutes ago, when I get back on, I've got 5 million notifications, to the point where I'm rarely consuming social media anymore. I get on, I make my post, I do my thing, I get off, because it's just a lot. And so I know that I haven't been cheering on people as much as I needed to. I know that I haven't been reaching out to people in Cincy that I look up to, that I may have listened to their training and I really loved it, and I didn't take the time to message them and tell them that thank you for uploading that to YouTube, because that really helped me, and that really helped me self-reflect. Or, hey, I saw your reel, like, you're bomb. Like, and those things matter. And I know maybe some of you are thinking, well, why does it matter if I'm messaging somebody that I don't make money on? Well, number one, that's not the point of being a good human. And that's not what Jesus didn't put us here on earth and in Cincy for us to only talk to people we get paid on, right? Because that's not what this is all about. But you never know when someone's going to need that. You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know all the battles that they're fighting, but they're putting a smile on their face and showing up for social media. And at the end of the day, our group name is Shine Your Light for a reason. And I just had to take that self-reflection, and I hope that you guys can take that self-reflection and do it with your team members, even just your regular team members. This isn't just a leadership thing. This is a good human, good consultant thing. And it's something that I think that we all need to be checked on every once in a while, especially during the holidays when everything's so busy. We all just get caught up in the motions of getting things done, and we forget to be just a compassionate and nice human, right? And people aren't joining us for Cincy. They're joining us because of who we are as people and what our company stands for. And I think it's super important to be able to evaluate yourself on those things. So that wasn't to like pull anybody down or make anybody feel bad, because your girl felt awful when she got done doing it. But now I know that I need to put these things next to my desk. I need to go make sure that I'm doing that. I need to go make sure that I'm posting and doing things in our leadership page, because as the leader, I have to set the pace and I have to set the tone. And if nobody sees me doing it, then nobody else is going to do it. Anyway, does anybody have any questions or anything you want to say about any of that before I get into like what I actually wanted to like talk about tonight, before I gave y'all a little pop quiz because the teacher and me? I will post them, Anna. I have them on in a Word document from like where I type my notes. I'll post them in our director page. I think that it's just like a really good thing to self-evaluate yourself on. Okay. Last question I'm going to ask before I get into my 10 tips that I'm going to talk about tonight for culture. People can feel your energy. Do you light up the room or dim it? Are you lighting up the room or are you dimming it? And I'm not an extrovert. I don't like people. But I hope that when I walk into a room and I do have something to talk about and it's not awkward, that they can see or feel positive energy. And energy is contagious. So whatever you are exuding, that is what is going to continue to flow to you. And I truly believe that people can feel your energy before you ever even speak to them. I'd never spoken to Tasha in person. I'd just seen her through social media and seen the things that she was doing, but she's absolutely right. She does light up the room. Her energy is so contagious. And so I don't know how, Philippa, I know I'm probably not saying your name right. I am very much an empath. So where you're saying that you take on the energy of people around you, read up on empaths, because that is very, very much what I do as well. And that is why I have very much had to protect my peace and decide what I'm going to be around and what I'm going to allow, because I fully believe that you become like the five most people that you hang around. 100%. You are the average of the five people that you hang around the most. And sometimes that means distancing yourself from people who you love, but you just can't take in their energy because it's not healthy for you at this point in your life. And that's something that's very hard to do. And taking on other people's emotions and energy is very draining. But when you learn how to harness it and own it, it can astronomically change your life. I'm still very, very much working through that, but there's a book called The Empaths Experience. It's a really good book about how you can like take control, because you feel very out of control a lot of times. I'm going on a whole nother tangent, but you feel very out of control because you don't know what other people's energy is going to be. But if when you learn to harness that energy, and it's very much something I'm still not an expert in, but that's something to look into, because as women, we have to take control of that, because you can't let everybody else control your emotions, even though that's a lot easier. Okay, anyway, people can feel your energy. When it comes to your energy and when it comes to the culture of your team, it is happening whether you're being intentional with creating that culture or not. And culture is something that is not tangible, so you can't reach out and touch it, but you can describe it. And you can foster it or you can completely ignore it. But it's happening as time goes by, like regardless, culture's happening. So these are some tips, 10 tips that is going to, or that I feel like are going to help create a culture of leadership within your team. Because at the end of the day, I wish that we didn't necessarily have to have separate pages for leadership content versus regular team page stuff content. But I feel like it's necessary, because if I'm talking about this stuff to a bunch of hobbyists, they're literally going to tune me out, not care, and then really not go back to my team page because I'm talking about a bunch of stuff that doesn't apply to them, right? Team pages are basic content, how to sell, how to do these things, but we can talk deeper and more intimate stuff that's not going to scare people away, right? Okay, so 10 tips. My very first tip is to build belief in yourself, in your team, and in this company. Build belief. You need to build the culture of making everything positive, unshakable belief. I'm not talking about toxic positivity, because that's very much a thing too, where you just don't see the negative and you just make everything positive, even if your arm just got cut off. That's not what I mean. But as a leader, if you aren't helping your team build trust in this company and within Heidi and Orville, your team isn't going to flourish. Because with COVID, with sellouts, with back orders, with FedEx, with all of the other things, your team can go downhill like that, because negativity is even more contagious than positivity, because it's a whole lot easier to be negative and bitch and moan than it is to be positive. So number one, Holly, was build belief in yourself, in your team, and in Scentsy. And I think that one of the biggest things that you can do is build belief in our company, because there are so many direct selling companies, network marketing, whatever you want to call it, that go under or that don't have the type of relationship with our CEOs that we do. Our CEOs are open, they are transparent, they are they're just amazing, but it's because they're authentic. And I don't always agree with everything Cincy does. We can agree that some things to me don't make sense, but I'm not the one running a multi-billion-dollar company. I trust them. I trust them because I have seen them continue to help and continue to do right by the consultants. When you see, if you were with Advocare, they just closed up shop one day, and like all of these other things. And a lot of times, this is what a lot of people don't realize, is that a lot of times Cincy as a company has to make decisions based on the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. And people think Cincy's just making the decision because they want to, but the FTC has gone crazy this year over turning in network marketers and direct sellers because everyone's at home doing what we're doing. And so sometimes they have to make those decisions that we don't agree with, that we think are stupid, but we have to be able to stay where we need to stay. But you have to build belief within the company and build belief within your team. Trust me, your girl isn't always rainbows and butterflies, but you guys know we're going to vent up. We're not going to vent down, because that one negative thing that you said to somebody may stick with them forever and ever. And you can't take that back. But as leaders, as a director or as an up and coming director, I would hope that you can be mad about the child selling out so fast and complain about it to somebody above you, and then get over it and realize that, okay, well, since he's still doing a pre-order, they don't even have to do that for us. Like, they're doing right by us. Okay. This still goes along with number one. If you're wanting to build belief, you have to stick with one company. You can't flip flop around, and you have to be the light for your team. And when I say be the light for your team, you need to be someone that everyone wants to be around. And like I said before, you don't have to be a toxic people pleaser where you don't feel like you can be who you are, because we all know that you're not going to be for everyone. But nobody wants to be around somebody who's always negative. And if nobody's ever wanting to be around you, I mean, you might be the problem, right? So like, build belief into all of that, okay? Number two, for building a culture of leadership within your team, you own no one on your team. You own no one. You want them to have a relationship with someone, okay? That doesn't mean it has to be on your team, and that doesn't mean it has to be you. They won't connect with everyone, and that's okay. You don't have to be, and I've said this already, you don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. You don't own anybody on your team. So if you guys aren't meshing, please, for the love of God, try to give them somebody that they can mesh with. Because at the end of the day, exactly, they don't own you, you don't own them. You have to find a way to find someone who you are going to mesh with. It doesn't matter whether they're your direct upline. I'm going to be honest, I don't give a shit if you don't like your sponsor. It's not your sponsor's business, it's your business. And if you are not going to work your business because you don't want your sponsor to get paid off of you, when, let's be honest, guys, it's a real small percentage. Unless you're somebody that's just like killing it. And I know that sounds awful, but like, I cannot stand when people come to me and say, well, I really don't like my sponsor, so I don't want to do anything. Oh, so you're going to sabotage your own life because you don't like somebody that's in front of you or on top of you or whatever? Like, that makes zero sense. That's just like, if you get a one flat tire, are you going to go slash the three other ones? That's freaking stupid. Who cares? Who cares? Because at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen. You could have sabotaged your entire business and quit, but then your sponsor quits 2 months down the road. Who cares? Who cares? Find somebody who is going to be your people. Now, I'm not giving anybody permission to be a bad leader, but sometimes people change. Sometimes people go through things that change them as a person. And just because somebody's your people today doesn't mean they have to be your people tomorrow. So find someone that they can have a relationship with, because I would much rather be able to say, okay, well, Tasha and I don't get along, so I'm gonna just let her like burn and not get any help. Like, that's so stupid. And that's not what life is about. If you guys don't mesh, find somebody that you feel like will mesh, tell them to connect with each other, bless it and release it. Let them find their success. Don't let a bad relationship with your upline, with your sponsor, with somebody that you just disagree with because they made a political post or whatever, don't let that ruin your business in your life, because you're the only one that has to wake up and do it. And if you're sabotaging something that has unlimited income because you don't like somebody, I mean, I'm the queen of being petty Betty, but that's like just dumb. So don't be petty Betty over that stuff, okay? Number 3. This is something that I am going to be super intentional about this coming year, because I feel like it's something that I've definitely done in the past. So, number 3 for creating a culture of leadership, focus on action, not on training. Now, I'm not saying we're not training, but how many of you have ever been overwhelmed by all of the different training things that have been thrown at you? And you feel like you need to do all the things, right? Overtraining people or giving them too much or 5 different things makes them freeze because they don't know what to do and they're overwhelmed with information, right? Ignorance on fire is better than knowledge on ice. So the best training that you can give to someone is to give them the task of going to work a home party, go to work a Facebook event, go to work a vendor event. Do they need to maybe do some homework to figure out how to throw their Facebook party? Yes. But there are 5 million mock Facebook groups out there. Pick one. You've just got to go do the work and do it. Facebook parties are a lot of work. That's why I didn't do them for a while until I found Visly. So I work hard once for creating my template, and then it makes it easier. And then I learn from it, right? How many of you guys have learned things not to do in a bag party or at a home party or in an email you sent out or in like a freebie that you offered because you didn't put only with a qualifying party and they want their free warmer and they sold 3 bars. So that is the best training that anybody can get, on the job training. When COVID is over, I have even had some of my newer team members came with me to a home party I was doing, and she watched. Or if you have a Facebook party going on, you can invite your newbie to it and just say, watch what I do. That is the best way to get someone trained. Give them an action to do, an action. Okay. Now, this is taken from another leader in Cincy, and I'm going to share this with you. We're talking money here. Okay. So the income disclosure, it's going to be in the comments when we post this, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This is not me. This you can tell by when I say this, but so this is from another leader. November of 2008, she had 23 home parties. Okay. She made about $2,300 that month. Okay. These aren't my numbers. This is what she said. Someone told her she was working way too hard with all those parties. She was going to burn herself out. She was going to want to quit, blah, blah, blah. So someone taught her the 2-year plan. 2,000 PRV, 2 new recruits, teach your team to do the same for 2 years. You will build replacement income. Okay. The following year, In November of 2009, she only had 2 home parties that November, but that whole year she had followed the 2000 PRV, 2 new recruits. That month, she made $11,000 and only had 2 home parties. But she recruited, she sold, and she taught her team to do the same. Okay? Follow it the next year, November 2010. 4 home parties that year or that month. A very few events because she was very event heavy for a while. Continued to follow the 2-year plan. Her paycheck was $25,000 in a month. Action. Getting out there and action. Doing the work. But working smarter. If you want to build a big business, if you want to build a legacy for your family, she had 23 home parties. 23 home parties. What the heck were you doing? 3 a day? Only made $2,300. But for 1 year, just one, that very next year, she made $11,000. And that's real life. That's very possible. But you have to do the work and you have to teach your team to do the work the same. Everybody's not going to sell 2,000 and recruit 2 people. They're not going to. If they were, everybody would be millionaires. This business wouldn't be what it is. You have to go through and find those people that are going to be coachable and do that. Because at the end of the day, leaders usually aren't just born, they're coached. Some people are naturally born leaders. We know who those people are. But a lot of people just need a little coaching. If money motivates you, they just need a little bit of seeing that it's real. If helping somebody achieve their goals, whatever it is, you never know what's going to motivate somebody. But doing those things over time and doing the actions, that's what's going to make it better. But I see so many people killing themselves over PRV, and PRV pays you once. Sponsoring people pays you every month if you're teaching them and training them and they're sticking with the business. Okay, next point. Number 4, for building a culture of leadership, build your A team, y'all. Build your A team. Bless everyone you meet. Stop telling yourself that the doctor down the road doesn't need to join Sensi. Bless everyone you meet. So many times people are saying no for people because they're not asking. You can say no for them, but you can't say yes for them. And that's not fair. But you need to find your A team. That means the most positive people you know, the most successful people you know. Does that always mean that they're going to join? No. But do you know how many people have told me no and are now on my team? No doesn't mean no forever, but you've got to build your A team. Stop discounting yourself. Stop discounting yourself. Tasha, and you know what? So Tasha, I'm repeating this for the recording. She said, my team is full of professionals that most would not have introduced the business to. Yep. And your business is thriving and your girls are thriving because you have found people like you. And you have found people that are business builders, that are driven, that want to do the things. Not everybody that you sponsor is going to be that. Honestly, most of the people that you sponsor aren't going to be that. But you're not going to be able to find those unless you're asking everyone. Because let me tell you something. If you don't ask them, I'm going to. Or Tasha's going to. Or Anna's going to. Because if you don't ask them, I'm going to ask them. And you can't be mad when they join one of our teams because you never asked. Ask everyone always. No is not going to kill you. You won't die. I promise. You're not going to die. Nobody has ever died from saying no to joining Sensi. Okay. Number 5. I've already kind of touched on this. Choose your circle of 5 wisely. Find people that inspire you and that you want to be like. You have to hang out with successful people if you want to be successful. My goal, never be the smartest person in the room. If you are the smartest person in the room, what are you going to learn? And that's not like a ego thing, but if you want to level up, you need to level up who you're hanging with. And if you don't know how to do that yet, trust me, awkward Annie over here doesn't know how to do that. But you know how I did that? By building relationships with people, by going to events and being uncomfortable, by finding people that are business builders, that are people that are like you. You have to step out of your comfort zone to find those people. Because at the end of the day, the people that live closest to you may not be in your circle of five. A lot of my people that I really can align with, they're not my closest friends, like in reality of like living here. Most of my friends that live where I live are happy living here for the rest of their life and they're good with it, and I'm not. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If they're happy with it, I'm happy for them, but I got places to go. And I've got a legacy to build for my family. And that's why I don't necessarily hang out with them as often, not because I'm being ugly, but because I only got a little bit of time on earth, you know? Like I've got to hang out with people that are willing to that are going to push me. Because if you're hanging out with somebody who's super negative all the time and like lets you make excuses and lets you have your pity party for 3 months, I need somebody that's going to call me out. Let me have my minute. Let me have a little bit, but then be like, look, you got to get it together. You're Chastity Effin Robinson. We're not doing this anymore. Like, and you need people like that in your life. And I know what it's like to not have that. And I know what it's like to continue to pray for it so that God gives that to you. And I need you to pray specifically for it. And I need you to be intentional. And if that means you need to write out what are the qualities of the people that I want to surround myself with, what are those qualities? Do that. Guys, go out on a search, find those people. And, you know, it doesn't necessarily always have to be in Cincy. There can be people that own their own businesses outside of direct sales, or it can be somebody that is in another direct sales, but our compensation plans are similar and y'all both can bounce your goals off of each other. But that is something that I fully, fully, fully believe. Okay. Number 6, for building a culture of leadership, what gets recognized gets repeated. Recognize as much as you can. Learn to compliment people naturally. Tell them what you love about them. Make every single person you meet feel important. And I will never forget when Orville said, I've heard him say that a couple times, but Orville always says, make everybody you meet feel like someone. And I think that's one of the reasons why I love him and this company so much, because they don't say that because they make money from saying that. They say that because they genuinely live that way. And if you ever go to an event, you can wait in line for an hour to take a picture with them and hug them, and he is going to be just as nice to you as he was to the very first person. Heidi's the exact same way, and he makes you feel important. And if you can embody that, I mean, God's going to bless that. Be the girl that tells somebody that you like her shoes or that her makeup's on fleek. Like, be that girl. If you're thinking it, spread light. I was literally standing in line to go into Target, which is a whole situation. And this lady had her 2-year-old carrying, like holding his hand, and she called this truck that was driving by way too fast an MFer. And all these other kids are standing in line and she's holding her kid's hand. And I almost had to say something, but then I knew that I had Jesus. So I wasn't going to, but I'm like, why was that necessary? We could spread kindness instead of being ugly. He was going too fast, but saying that in front of all those kids is just not necessary. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Okay. Number 7, set an expectation of independence. Okay. When I say that, none of you are a 7-Eleven. We ain't a 24-hour Walgreens. You can't be open all the time. You need to set business hours. You need to set expectations. You need to coach your team to solve their own problems. Not saying that to be ugly. I'm saying that because you will have people that message you at midnight on the last day of the month asking why something that's been out of stock for the last 3 months ain't there no more. You'll have it. I don't even feel bad for not responding anymore because I have said those expectations over and over. I'm not staying up with you to the end, to the last night or the last hour of the month when, like, it's all, most of the things that people ask can be found, but they just have to go and find it. Okay. So this is something I see with so many leaders, is that they get burnt out with being a leader because they feel like they always have to be available. No, you turn that phone on D&D and you leave it out of your office when you're working on your personal business, because you can never stop working your personal business. But if you continue to basically reward the behavior of reaching out to you every single time they have a question and you respond right away, you're rewarding that behavior and that's going to get repeated. And if someone messages you that you are not their sponsor, like let's say they're 3 down from you, whatever, it doesn't even matter honestly, but you're not their sponsor, but they message you and they want all of this information that, number one, they could find on the workstation, but number two, they should not be reaching up to the director to ask that question when they need to reach out to their sponsor. A lot of people have an issue, or they feel like they're being mean for saying, ask your sponsor that question, or ask that question on the team page. That's not you being mean. That's you setting a boundary. Because if I were to respond to that, what's she going to do the next time she has a question? And what is she going to teach her team to do when she starts sponsoring and they have questions? But I'm not her sponsor. And it's not about her not being my front line. It's about there has to be a replicatable system for things like that for when you have one person or 400. Because you may be able to do it now. If you have 30 people, you may be able to do it now. But what's going to happen when we have a $15 join special and your team goes from 40 to 100? Seen it happen. Watched it happen to some of you guys. What is that going to do to your business if you have been rewarding the behavior of messaging you and asking you questions when, like, that's not the correct chain of command? Please don't feel like you're being ugly. You are teaching them to be a business owner, because what you're teaching them, they are going to teach their team. So yes, it is sort of difficult and you feel maybe bad. If you're like me, I feel bad sometimes saying that, and people may not understand it, but eventually you're going to have too many people to do that. So you have to teach them those things. So when I say coach your team to solve their own problems and replicatable, the most important thing that you can do in this business is teach your team to do things that are duplicatable. Because if you can't teach your team to work the way that you do, they're not going to want to do it. And duplication with simplicity and like why you do something, that's going to stick. I don't respond to Facebook Messenger to team members or group members because I save that for my customers. We have 1,500 group members. I can't do that because my personal business will die. And I used to feel very guilty about just leaving it on red. I can't feel guilty about it anymore. I have to put me first. I've said a million times, here's my phone number, here's my email. I'm sorry. So decide how you're going to teach your team to be independent, because at the end of the day, we are independent consultants. Everything that you do for your team is a plus, and we want people to be successful. We want to strive to get people to do the things, right? But also, one last thing, and then I'm going to move on to the next point. if you're having a hard time just like not responding, set yourself an hour limit. Home office has taught us 24 hours. They can ask you a question, wait 24 hours. A lot of times people text back pretty quickly and say, never mind, I found it. But if after 24 hours, you can text them and say, hey, did you find what you were looking for? Most of the time, they're going to say yes. If they say no and never went to go look for what it was they needed, it clearly wasn't that important to them. You can show them, or not show them, you can tell them where to go find the information. But every single time you just hand them the answer on a silver platter, you're not teaching them to be a business owner. You're not teaching them to fish. You've got to teach a man to fish instead of just handing them everything. Now, I will say also, there are times where people ask me questions that I don't know and I've got to go figure it out. I'm going to go figure it out and help them. But I'm talking simple questions like, how do I pay for my website? Do I know if this product is back in stock? Check the product status list, honey. I don't know. It's updated freaking hourly, I feel like I don't know. So know that, okay? I'm going to hurry up because it's 9 o'clock. Tip 8 for building a culture of leadership on your team. I haven't heard it talked or like said this way before, but I guess this is how they used to train it. Orville used to train it this way. Follow and teach the 4 chords. So Orville says that there are 4 chords in this business: parties, sponsoring, customer service, and improving yourself. I'm going to type them in the chat box because I see some people writing. Okay. So follow and teach the 4 chords. Fill your team with inspiration instead of information. There is so much information out there. At this point, if you don't know something, ignorance is a choice at this point. So, like I said, I'm not saying don't train, but you can absolutely give people too much information. But if they feel inspired by you and they keep their business simple, because a lot of times people try to make everything just too complicated. At the end of the day, we're a party plan business. You need a party, you need a sponsor. You need to take care of your customers, and you have to improve yourself. You have to feed your brain. And that's where a lot of people lack in this area, is that they don't feed their brain, or they don't feed their body with good food, or they don't move their body. And you can't do anything well if you're not taking care of you. But fill them with inspiration instead of information. Information's good, but you can give too much. Number 9, for building a culture of leadership, share your failures. Please, for the love of God, share your failures. People need to know that you aren't perfect, because believe it or not, I mean, I think most people realize that my life's a hot mess because I share it all the time. But so many people are scared to share their failures. They're scared to share that they did a Facebook party and nobody bought anything. Or they're scared to share that they were out at the store wearing a Scentsy shirt and didn't have any business cards or catalogs in their purse. Like, it's okay to share those failures. That helps your team identify with you, because nobody's perfect. There are always things that I wish that I could do better. But if you're not sharing your failures, like, you've just got to. And that doesn't even mean just in your personal business. With being a leader, if you feel like you've slacked off with being a leader, be honest about that. You have to share not just the highs. If you're not sharing the lows, nobody's ever going to be able to identify with that. And I honestly think that good leaders share their failures loudly. And I know that it's something that I need to share a lot more often. But people need to know. because we all started as a brand new essential consultant that had no idea what we were doing. I still have no idea what I'm doing, but I've learned through my failures. Because if you're not failing, you're not growing. If you're not failing, you're not challenging yourself. If you're not failing, what are you even doing? Like, everybody is so proud of accomplishments all the time, but I'm proud when I fail at something sometimes. I mean, I'm very competitive. However, most people are going to learn more from their failures than from their successes. Because, I mean, I don't even remember who it was. It was somebody on my team that went to a home party and left her testers at home. She ain't gonna forget those testers again, because she is going to remember to bring those testers because she went to a home party and forgot them sitting on her counter. I bet she won't ever do that again. Right? So remember that, okay? Something I want to add on to that: hurt people hurt people. As a leader, you're going to have thick skin, but a tender heart. And know that most of the time, if somebody is saying something hurtful to you, it is because they are hurt. And whether it's intentional or whether it's like a underlying thing, hurt people because it ends up making them feel better. And I've been there. I mean, I don't feel like there's anybody on this earth who hasn't said something hurtful to somebody because you were hurt. Right? So like, but remember that as a leader, that you have to have thick skin, but have a tender heart. So if somebody on your team is going crazy on you, vent up, cuss about them, say the things, sleep on it before you go and handle it. Have a tender heart because you don't know what they are going through. Now, that doesn't mean you have to tolerate disrespect, because your girl has definitely had to clap back on people. Specifically last year after World Tour, I had some very ugly emails that were sent to me, and they hurt my heart. They hurt my feelings, while giving this person love. I also told her treating me with disrespect isn't going to be tolerated. So you don't have to tolerate the disrespect, but how you handle the situation out of love, but also gangsta, is going to make the difference, because you teach people how they can treat you. And if you teach somebody that they can come at you however they want because they had a bad day, they're going to continue to do it if you don't check it. Okay? It's the same thing in life. I'm dealing with that situation with some family members right now, but it's the same thing with your team. You teach them how they can treat you. Thick skin, tender heart, always sleep on it. Because, and pray on it, and have somebody proofread what you're going to say. Because a lot of times it can sound one way to you, but somebody else reading it is a different way. It is always okay to do that. If you're one of my directors, you can absolutely post, do you think I should post this? Or what do you think in this situation? I've done that with my directors numerous times. Posted, this is an email I got. How should we respond? Because that's a learning thing. You get better at it the more you have to do it. I hope you don't have to do it a whole lot, because it's miserable and it sucks your energy. But energy vampires are real. Protect your peace. Last thing, okay? Because gosh, I'm trying to hurry up. All right, the 10th tip for setting a culture of leadership is you set the tone. You are the pacemaker. You have to show them the way. And how do they see you as a leader? Do they see you as a leader who's only showing up on the 1st, the 15th, and the end of the month to check in with them about who has parties booked, who's closing an order, who's still sponsoring? Is that the type of person that they see you as? Because I do posts about the 1st of the month, the end of the month, the middle of the month. I do that, but I don't do it for a selfish reason. I'm not sending that individual. I've had people, leaders specifically, send out texts because they need an active frontline to promote. And so they're sending out texts to 3 of their frontline who aren't active yet the last day of the month, trying to see if they have a party because they're worried about whether or not they're going to promote. That's not what we do here. And at the end of the day, like, if you're worried about your active frontline to promote for your numbers, you need to keep promoting, you need to keep sponsoring, or you're going to always be stressed over that. That should never be an issue. And if it is an issue, if it is something that you're struggling with right now, that's okay. We just got to keep sponsoring more people, because it happens. People promote and they may only have 2 people on their team, but they hit star consultant. But you can't count on that every single month, because people are going to go through things, you're going to go through things, etc. That's a whole nother topic. Okay. So be what you want to see more of. Be the leader that you want to see more of. You can try to motivate people to do something, but if they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. And I see a lot of questions from leaders about that a lot. How do I get my team motivated? You don't. You can inspire them. You can give them the tools, but you cannot motivate them to work their business. Number one, you don't want to do that. That is draining. Number two, you can't do it forever. Number three, if they're looking to you for motivation, that's a them internal issue, because you have to be your motivation. I'm not saying that you can't like find inspiration and motivation from other people, but it is not your job as the leader isn't to motivate your team to sell. It's not. Your team as a leader isn't your job as a leader isn't to motivate people to want to sponsor. Because if they don't want to do it, they may do it for a little while just to please you, but then they're eventually going to leave because they feel pressured or because it's not their passion. And if somebody doesn't want to grow their team, or somebody doesn't want to be a leader, let it be. Tell them to stop sponsoring. Send their people to you, or they can take a non-leadership role. If they're not if they're not doing what they need to do and they don't want to do it as a leader, it's not like everybody's going to thank you if you take a non-leadership role. Right? So I feel like I've just talked and talked and talked. Does anybody have any questions? Or you can unmute yourself. You can ask a question. You can say something that you got from it. But those are my 10 tips for cultivating leadership. And I feel like those are tips. I'm giving them to you as leaders, but those are tips for us to take back to our teams, our general teams, right? It's not just like you have to create that culture from the get-go. I'm going to stop talking and see if anybody wants to talk. Anybody? Okay. I've got like 3 quotes that I had written down. Leaders know their why. They know their why, they know their purpose, and it just continues to expand. So if you don't know your why as a leader, sometimes your why gets wishy-washy. Sometimes things in your life change and your why changes. But make sure you know what that is if somebody asked you. If I walked up to you because I saw you randomly and I said, "Why do you do Scentsy?" You should be able to tell me if you're passionate about it. Okay? This is something that Orville said, and I literally was like, boom, at reunion when he said it. Winners quit things all the time. They just quit the right things. Winners quit things all the time, but they quit the right things. Meaning, quit complaining, quit making excuses, quit saying you can't book parties, quit doing the things that aren't going to bring you value. Just because I used to be very much like, I don't want to be a quitter. You're right, I'm not a quitter, but I am going to quit complaining, and I am going to quit saying that I don't have time to go work out. I'm quitting the things that matter. Okay? And the last thing that I want to leave you with is you're going to have to work hard at whatever it is that you're doing in life, no matter where you work, whether you work for yourself, whether you work for another business. no matter what you do, you're going to have to work hard. You might as well work hard at a place and at a business where the reward of you working hard actually pays you for what you've done. And this was like my whole conversation with Mason about, he was saying how teaching was a con because it didn't matter how late I stayed at work, my salary wasn't going to change. But he's like, if you work really hard at Cincy and you do all the things, your paycheck gets bigger. And I'm like, yeah, I work hard at the things that matter, though. Because at the end of the day, the time's going to pass. You're going to have to work hard at something. And one thing that I see a lot of leaders do is they say that their 9 to 5 or whatever job they have is hard and they don't have time. Well, guys, it's going to be hard regardless. And you can't come home from a job that's going to replace you tomorrow if you quit and not go all in for your dreams. The day I quit teaching, they were interviewing people. They don't, and I worked for an amazing principal and I love her and I have a great relationship, but it doesn't matter. They're going to replace you the very next day. But now I get to work for myself. Now I get to take my son to surgery and not have to worry about asking for a day off. But I saw the vision. I knew that if I kept at what I was doing, I would eventually get to this point. So you have to decide if that's what you want. And if that's not what you want, that's okay too. I'm here to help you support and reach your goals no matter what they are. No matter what they are. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or anything that you want to say or anything at all? Anybody?
I'll say one thing. It's a totally random question. I was going to ask it earlier.
Yeah, go.
But we always vent up. So where do SSDs vent to besides like corporate, or do y'all just, is that where we vent to other SSDs or? Okay.
SSDs, other SSDs. We do. We have an SSD page. There is like a official Superstar Director page or whatever, but I mean, you know how that is with like the official pages and how the negativity can kind of like take over. Like that's why I am not even about those pages. I don't even go to those pages. Like my people know that if you need me to see something about that, you better tag me and then probably text me and tell me to look at it, because I still probably ain't gonna look at it. So, and you know, Tasha, and I can see your face like agreeing with how negative it is. That is why I'm so hell bent on our culture with never having anything negative on a team page. And never venting down and all of that. Because look at how easy all of those things, it gets so out of control so fast. And if you're not a director yet and you want to be, yeah, exactly. I'm not even gonna say anything else about it because this is being recorded and snitches and get stitches and laying dishes with bitches. But anyway, anybody else have any other questions? Or anything y'all want to say? All right, I'm going to stop the recording.